Hey guys, today I'm going to show you a little bit about how to repot your crops. And I think many in the parts that you've seen on YouTube, there isn't really much guides of how you repot crops. In particular, you've seen a lot of plants and so on and so forth. But anyway, I'm just going to show you a little bit. So here I have a tomato plant. This is about 2 to 4 weeks. These were grown from seedlings, and you can see they're pretty nice and happy with secondary leaves right here. But what we're going to do today is we're going to move these pots to bigger pots and hopefully grow them a little bit taller as we go along. So one of the things that you realize is when you are trying to repot, one of the good signs that you can see when the growth is big enough and it's time to do a repot is, of course, look at the bottom of the pot, and you can see there are a little bit of roots that are starting to appear. I'm not sure if you can see it right here, but if you see roots usually white in color and they look like strings, it's probably a good sign that it's time to repot your plants. So we have one here. The second sign, of course, is growth is slowing. I don't think the tomato plant is slowing in growth for now, but this should do it. Again, you don't have to repot just because growth is slowing or roots are touching the bottom. But good due diligence of how you can make your plants grow better is having them to repot when necessary. Okay, so maybe the first thing that we're going to do is, if you can see here, I'm just going to squeeze the side of the pot, just loosen up the soil for that, and I'm just going to shake it off. Now be gentle with the younger plants. They typically are a little bit more sensitive. Oh, there we go. And we're gonna squeeze it slowly. Again, don't worry if they are buried a little bit. It's completely fine for the plants. There you go. Okay. So you see most of the plants that are here are pretty healthy. We're gonna just pull out the one. There you go. Pretty healthy roots. Just gonna squeeze it a little, right? Pretty good one. I'm just gonna find a bigger one right here. Yep, pretty decent. And you can see they grow in, of course, a little bit of a cluster, simply because when planting all of these plants, I did put all of the seeds without much spacing. Again, don't worry too much about it. You can see clusters are here, and the roots are a lot more shallow actually. There you go. Right, but you can see that there are secondary leaves that are starting to appear. Pretty good at the point. Alright, so we're probably just going to pick a few to plant in the newer pot. Again, all of this is just pure compost. When you are dealing with bigger and bigger plants, you don't have to use 100% compost. In fact, you don't want to use 100% compost. They don't need that amount of nutrition at that stage. So think of it as when they were younger, they will need different sort of nutrition. As you get older, you can give them different sorts and probably more complex nutrition. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is very simply, we're going to have a couple of plants as well, not just the tomato plants. Now number one is because when you plant crops, there is a bigger need for you to have what we call co-planting. What co-planting essentially means is that you want two different plants in the same pot and the same soil ecosystem. They help to prevent pests. A very good way for you to not use any sort of medicinal or pesticides is that you can plant them together and they sort of help each other. I'll share a little bit more on that later. But anyway, here's the pot. Remember, drainage holes are very important. Do not opt for pots, with no drainage holes, right? You want many air pockets for the plant to breathe. You can see here, this is sort of like the 3-in-1 soil that I have. Oops, there you go. Right, and basically what it has is compost, some soil, peat, moss, fertilizer as well. Right, so we're going to shovel and just fill this up. Not sure if you can see it. Put too much into that. Here we go. Okay, so now we can do the planting. I'm just going to adjust this. There you go. Okay, one very important thing when you are doing the planting is that, of course, you've got to pick up healthy roots and healthy shoots as well. So what I'm going to do, just dig a hole with my finger. Now, tomatoes are plants who are very good at rooting, and they need very deep roots to grow. So be generous with the hole that you are making, right? Don't be shy. Push it all the way in. Now we see a couple of tomatoes, pretty healthy ones here. We're just going to dig it out, push it in, cover it back a little bit. Okay, one more thing that we're going to do today, of course, is we're going to co-plant this with another plant, which is a sweet basil that I just snipped off earlier. Now you can see that the basil is here. Putting it in does help it grow. I choose not to water propagate this, and there's a very specific reason. One of it is because water propagation might not be the best nutrition when it comes to your plants. It is a good idea to get it to root early on. Again, no beef with water propagation, but in my experience, sometimes it requires more than just water and nutrition. Okay, just gonna put it here. Now I don't want my basil to be way too deep. They do require quite a lot of sun. And here we go. Okay, now you notice one of the things that I don't really do is plant spacing as much. And now simply because plant spacing is something that is good if you are looking to get maximal growth, or if you're trying to maximize the size of the fruits and so on and so forth. But you know, when you're planting at home, that's something you might not have a luxury of, this of space. Will they die? No, I don't think they will. But it's really important, of course, you know what you're trying to do with the plants. That should be it. Okay, perfect. Now you see, maybe a little bit up close, not much space actually, right? And why specifically tomato and basil is because they are great plants to grow next to each other, where the basil will help with the aphids growing on the roots, and the tomato helps you to protect from pests like spider mites, of course, with the basil. So they sort of help each other to grow. Now, one of the things that they mention is as well that basil is also very good at helping the flavors of tomato. Well, that's true. I have no idea. Cool. Okay, so I think this is pretty well filled. We could actually fill it a little bit more. Right, again, don't worry too much about this, right? When it comes to potting, one of the key things that I always believe in is that as long as the soil composition is appropriate, that's all you need. Okay, there you go. Very simple planting, and of course our goal here is to help it reach a particular height. You can see it's about about an inch bigger than the old pot. I'm gonna plant this later off camera, but I just want to make it simple so you could follow all of this over here. Okay, what you do next, of course, is the obvious. You water them, and you're going to put, actually let me just bring it and show it to you right here. These are my plants, you can see it later. And just go a quick drink. Now they look like they might be drowning a little bit. These smaller ones will need a lot of support in the initial stages, but give it time and let it settle, not to worry. Now I'm a little bit more generous with this watering because there are a lot of drainage holes here. There you go. Now what you want is this. When you water, there are holes and there are water that is coming out from those holes to know that the water has completely seeped in of your plants, right? That is really, really important, right? You want the roots to have water as well. Okay, enough talking for now. I'll put it here. Hopefully they go well. Now I'm just going to show you a little bit of watering as well, just so that you understand generally the basics of the importance of watering and what does watering do for you. Prepared two different mediums. One is, of course, the soil that we use. This is peat moss, compost, fertilizer, generic stuff actually. Now the second one is, of course, coco coir, a little bit of perlite actually, if you see here, right? And again, this is something that I built my own. Put drainage holes as well at the sides to have better water flow, right? And what I'm going to demonstrate is why are different soils required for different plants, and why, of course, it's important to have the right and appropriate amount of soil. With crops, of course, especially, it's important that you have something like this, a little bit more compact, more nutritious, not so much aeration. They don't really need too much aeration, but crops in general have quite a high need for nutrition. Is coco coir not nutritious? No, of course not, but I think a lot more aeration on this end. Cool. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is, firstly, just going to water this in. Now you quickly see that water is seeping through the entire parts, and if you notice here, there are areas that are not watered, right? This is completely caved in, and you see that, right? And there are water pockets and air pockets that you see here because when you water, it is likely that you do not get the full watering, right? So if you pour in a second time, of course, in a different area, you have a more even watering. Now, is that to say that you need all of the areas to be filled with water? In fact, I think the more correct way, if you put it, is that they should have air pockets that form now, right? And you can see here the air pockets have formed, and that's good, right? You want your roots to be breathing as well. Now let's do with the coco coir and see what happens. Now you see it fills up a little less, right? And very quickly the water now has drained, but way more air pockets, right? And you can see here all the water is gone, right? Then soil can only absorb a particular amount of mass of water, and you know, it doesn't matter if you put in a gallon of water or 2 sprays of a bottle, they are essentially the same. All right, and you can see air pockets, air pockets, air pockets, right? And of course all of this is usually used for plants, and you see the pothos, you're seeing more airy plants, of course, where you require, of course, a lot more aeration, not so much nutrition, right? And these are the perfect mediums. And now if you see and compare both of these, and I just want you to understand, when you plant your crops, it's important that you understand the principles of watering. And if we leave this out for maybe a couple of days, you could even see the differences in the watering concentration, right? One of the things that you also realize is that as it dries out, the water areas also dry out quite differently. They don't dry out evenly, but essentially what you can do is that you can figure out how soon the water will dry out, and then it's time to re-water again, right? And you don't have to water daily. I see many big mistakes made by planters is that they water daily out of habit, not out of a necessity, right? Okay, so you've understand a little bit more on crops, about planting and so on and so forth. Of course, that to say is not all plants require the same amount of attention and care. If you can see here, right? And all the watering schedules could look different. Now if you see the pothos that I plant here, right, this is a lot more airy, less water, and you can see this is planted and watered, I think 2 days ago. Still very airy, some water pockets here and there. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Again, drop any questions you have on the comments, or maybe you have any feedback on, you know, what you think is the right or better way. I'm happy to hear it. I guess that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.